Emergency generators and floodlights were brought in by civil defense personnel. Mountains of debris had to be hand-carried from inaccessible locations. Structures built by man seemed very fragile under the onslaught of the massive forces of nature. However, the durability of man himself is attested to by the sense of humor expressed here in the midst of great loss. Amidst destruction, a resident printed a public announcement of thankfulness for being alive. Lunchtime becomes a gruesome outdoor picnic. Many structures were totally lifted from their foundations. This house appears to have exploded, blowing the south wall completely off. The day after the tornado, some commercial businesses had already started to rebuild. Debris was to be found everywhere along the tornado's path. Light steel girders were twisted like pretzels by the fury of the storm. Residents stopped to talk to neighbors between spurts of work and viewed the destruction with continuing disbelief. Transportation for the many residents who lost their cars was by foot through the area. One of the 3 deaths occurred at this location. Mobile command post facilities were established by the Nebraska State Patrol using their Bluebird and by the Douglas County Sheriff's Department. RadioNet communication links were established between field units and the Omaha 911 system, Public Works, National Guard Command Post, and other units as required. Many coordination and planning meetings were held between city, county, state, federal, and volunteer agencies. This one was held at the National Guard Command Post. Hoskins Western Sonderegger, an engineering firm in Lincoln, flew aerial strip photography the morning following the tornado and furnished these pictures to the city as a public service. Utilizing these aerial vertical photographs, an accurate physical limit of the damaged area was plotted on Public Works area work maps. The actual path or paths of the tornado were ascertained. The refined area plot is as shown through the center of this map. These maps were distributed to the Public Works foremen and supervisors and other interested agencies. Federal and local officials utilized this map for distribution of food stamps. Now the cleanup started in earnest. The mayor and the Public Works director made a total commitment of all available Public Works equipment and personnel to the arduous task of debris removal. Crews, themselves stunned by the awesome destruction, began the task of hand-picking debris. Many trucks were loaded by hand. Where available, front-end loaders were used to load trucks. Debris was hauled initially to city and county landfills. Sewer crews opened clogged storm drains and located trouble spots in sewer systems. The many streets, still partially closed by debris, were opened as quickly as possible. The gigantic size of some of the toppled trees required extensive ingenuity of the Public Works crews to accomplish the job of removal. As the major debris was removed, streets had to be swept repeatedly to remove fiberglass insulation particles and nails. The nail problem became acute. Some trucks had as many as 6 flat tires a day. Special mobile tire changing crews were contracted for to take care of this problem. The parts department also committed as much equipment as possible to the cleanup. Specialized equipment such as this aided in handling logs and long timbers unable to be handled by the front-end loaders. The state also furnished some of these units. State Roads Department equipment and personnel were also committed to the cleanup. Note the large addresses painted on the houses by residents for identification purposes. Douglas County furnished men and equipment, as did Sarpy County. Other towns around the area responded in like manner. Council Bluffs, Bellevue, Papillion, Ralston, La Vista, Lincoln, Lexington, Fremont, and Papio Natural Resources District all furnished drivers and equipment, as did Douglas County. The Union Pacific furnished trucks and crews to aid their employees whose homes had been damaged or destroyed. Salvation Army Food Kitchen and personnel were present during the entire cleanup. They also provided great assistance in locating clothing and shelter for victims. Several local contractors volunteered equipment to aid in the cleanup. Private bus lines furnished transportation for volunteers. MUD, after taking care of immediate problems with gas and water lines, committed available equipment and men to the job of cleanup. The Air Force at Offutt Air Force Base sent a volunteer force of engineers and equipment to aid in demolition of unsafe structures. The Nebraska National Guard assumed many roles, from the all-important area guards to demolition and debris removal. All available Guard equipment was committed to the battle. Engineer equipment removed and hauled debris. Roving patrols were continued by the National Guard. National Guard sentries were posted at many of the entry points. Air Force personnel manned some of the other entry points, as did law enforcement personnel. Continued aerial surveillance by National Guard helicopters aided city officials in checking the cleanup progress and selecting the best areas for dump and burn sites. Public Works evolved a staff structure which placed all Public Works equipment and personnel coordination under one set of supervisors, and all volunteer forces and equipment coordination under a second set of supervisors. The volunteer forces and the Public Works forces were joined together in the field under the Public Works area supervisors. This evolved structure is now a part of emergency plans. In order to enter private property for the removal of debris, a release form had to be developed and printed and then distributed to work group supervisors. This form had to be signed by the property owner. Area passes for volunteers had to be printed and numbered. Each pass was good for 1 day and for north or south only, as indicated by the green 11 written across the middle. The green was for the south area, and the 11 was for 11 May 1975. The Omaha Chamber of Commerce furnished over 10,000 pass holders for this program. Work crew sign-up sheets were printed, giving assigned area, drop-off and pickup locations, and crew supervisor. When possible, each supervisor was assigned 20 workers. Food facilities were furnished by the Red Cross and Salvation Army for those who did not bring lunches. These services were also continued for area residents. Transportation of volunteers had to be arranged. Metro Area Transit furnished drivers and supervisory personnel and provided the necessary buses. As buses were radio-equipped, any change in area could be coordinated with the Public Works field supervisors. Buses were clearly marked so that the volunteers could get back to the correct assembly area. 3 assembly areas were picked adjacent to, but outside the curfew area. Volunteers were signed up and loaded on buses by crew. Portable toilet facilities were placed at the assembly points and strategic locations throughout the stricken area. Volunteers brought hand tools, power tools, and lunches. Over 10,000 volunteers were bussed into the area for cleanup on Saturday and Sunday following the tornado. Some individuals tried to capitalize on the situation by attempting to sell accident insurance on buses and routes to the area. The Mid-America Council of Boy Scouts of America staged a massive Saturday project in which some 4,200 Boy Scouts and leaders participated. Although assigned primarily to public parks and open areas where debris was lightweight and injury could be held to a minimum, the Scouts managed to handle all but the biggest log. All it took was one more Scout to lift this log. Dumpsters were placed near some Scout pickup areas by National Disposal. But where there weren't any, the Scouts piled debris in neat piles in convenient locations for later pickup. Volunteers, particularly teenagers, turned out en masse. Several of the public schools allowed students a half day off during the week after the tornado to do cleanup work.